Okay, let's go. Today I played a chess match, uh, and I was white. This is one of the classical competitions that I'm in. In this competition I've played, this is my 5th game. I played 4 previous games, all with black, which is why the last, well, outside of the last one, before that, the last 7 games were with black. And I might have even had a black game before that as well, but that was from a different thing, I believe. Not sure. Yeah, it's approximately 7 black games and 1 white, the last one, so I played white again. And I wanted to play a gambit of some sort, either against the two. I didn't really prep for this match, but I remember my prep from the last time that I wanted to either play a Smith Mora or an Evans Gambit. So I played e4, and on these two I had some sort of gambit prepared in theory. My opponent played c6, and I know the mainline Caro pretty well. I played it a bit. And I had to basically unlearn everything, because, and just, or not unlearn, but like, I at some point got the message that I should stop playing the Caro because of some, like, some advanced Caro stuff and like e6 issues. But I mean, I can play that, and I had an interesting game quite a bit ago where I did that and got g4 and f4 and was pretty good. But today I just wanted to play a mainline Caro, and let's see. And my opponent played knight f6, which I'm not very familiar with, but I mean, it should be fine. I believe you should take and play against this pawn structure and just assume that that's good enough, I think. Unclear. So I tried to figure out how to set up my pieces, and I already probably played it incorrectly. I think the move should be bishop f4 here to prevent queen c2, queen c7, and bishop d6 should just take, I think. But I played bishop c4 instead, eyeing some things maybe at some point. And I think bishop c4 also makes sense in other ways, like, I mean, it's a developing move, but it's also like trying to push d5 at some point maybe. Bishop d6 happens, preventing bishop f4, and now my bishop really doesn't want to go anywhere. But I tried to, well, find a good spot for it. One thing I considered was just basically looking at how I would win this game. Where would I get a winning advantage? And basically, honestly, if I get to an endgame, it should probably be fine. I can probably push an endgame to, well, definitely at least a draw. But I mean, this is a 4v3, and this is basically a 3v3. I think I can win an endgame with this pawn structure, assuming that all the queens and all the rooks are off. The queens and rooks will be the last pieces remaining, but that's whatever. We'll get there. So I decided to play queen e2 check here. After queen e7 I would just take, I'd be happy. Bishop e6 doesn't work because I just take and win a pawn. So my opponent just decided to go back with the bishop. Now here I think bishop f4 might still be fine. I didn't really care about it, but I mean, this pawn is hanging, which is kind of an issue. Which is why I didn't play bishop f4. I played bishop e3, and later on I will try to move my bishop somewhere else, because this is not the square it wants to be. It wants to be basically anywhere else it can go. f4 is good, d2 is fine. d2 also gives you options later on. But yeah, I played bishop e3, my opponent castled, and I castled as well, starting basically there are some king side attacks and queen side attacks, and or attack against the king in both sides. That can happen now, and I think because my bishops are actually like not there. Yeah, that's a theoretical option, but like right here, and the queen is here, and there's no knight here. I think an attack should favor me, except that my opponent is faster. My opponent can attack immediately right now, and does so with the move b5, which I spent a lot of time on, and I think you can't sack the piece. I think I tried to look at this for quite a while. I'll show what I did. Bishop d3, which might be the worst option of the three actually. But I spent a lot of time trying to calc this sack, and I think I can prove that it doesn't work. So why would you sack a piece? Let's look at that first. Well, the rook is trapped and there's no way to save it. Well, kind of. So there are a couple of options, like let's say bishop b7 I can take, and then the rook is saved. I'd be up a pawn. I think the version that is better is knight c6, and I take, and I'd still be up a pawn, and like bishop b7 is on the way, so I do actually need to do something smart here. I mean, maybe just queen f3 or something, then queen g3, or actually maybe h3, because maybe this. And I think I'd be fine here, up a pawn, and stuff. Other option, the third option is, there's one thing I saw, that after queen, I mean, you need to go to one of the 7th ranks with the queen. So let's say, I believe you need to go here for this one. You can give the rook, bishop b7, and here, and then win the rook back. But in this line, I'm up a pawn again, which I calced, of course. And note that queen c7 in that variation doesn't work, because you need the because then the bishop gets pinned because the queen is undefended. But what the reason that I didn't play this was the following line, and it's not queen d7, it's queen c7, and of course this, but bishop f5 and a mate threat, and then after something like c3, this traps the queen, and I don't think I had anything smart to do anywhere in between. Not sure. There is another move that I basically realized while walking back home, which is queen b6, and if I take, then bishop b7 traps the queen immediately, but you have d5 here, and that doesn't help. And now I don't think that helps, because of d6 probably, right? Maybe this is still playable for black. No, right? Nah. I mean, okay, this is... There's no d7 though. Maybe this is good. That would be unfortunate as well. But, I mean, I can just go grab this pawn, I think. Maybe not. Not sure. I didn't see this in the game though, that d5 also blocks this. And queen c7 is also an option. Maybe. Yeah, that's also good that I didn't do that. And other option is of course bishop b3 here, which I looked at for a little bit. I think bishop d3 is fine because you get stuff like this as well, forcing g6, which is a weakening move, and then my bishop can go here maybe. At least part of that happened. So my opponent played here the move bishop e6, which makes sense. My bishop vacated not that diagonal, this diagonal. So this pawn is under attack and the bishop is developed. I looked at a couple of things and I'm kind of starting to get into trouble maybe because of some attacking options. I played the move a3. I really couldn't find anything else because like b3 you just get this check, which is annoying. King b1, there's queen a5. Yeah, and this allows b4, but honestly I think I would be happy after b4. So take bishop takes c3 would have been my variation, and then honestly this bishop is just a good defender, and I can play queen c2 even. I'd play this, and my opponent's pawn structure is completely shattered. I'd win an endgame because of that, probably. So yeah, I'd be okay with that. That didn't happen though. My opponent played what they considered to be too quick, maybe. My opponent played queen a5, which I had some issues with. I think what I did was fine. I think basically I think my opponent is slightly better here, but they do need to play some piece sack at some point to attack my king. Otherwise I think I'm fine. So there's actually a threat here. I think like I think you can take here right now, which would be kind of scary. So I tried to prevent that somehow. b4 is of course bad. I can't actually defend it more. c4 would be probably terrible because you can still take here. So I found basically the only move here, I think, which is bishop d2. And here my opponent also kind of has some issues. The move I assumed was queen a4, which didn't happen. If you play queen a6 or queen a4, same issue. You do threaten to take here, which I think is checkmate if I take back. But after this I can probably play bishop b4. Maybe not. Oh no, wait, I believe in both cases my plan would have been bishop c3, which defends sufficiently and my king can run. I don't think you can ever get through without sacking a piece, in which case I'd be happy to play this. And I mean, you can play b4, and try this, but that's nothing, I don't think. This is also good enough, probably. So yeah, I expected either of those, probably queen a4. You also have the option of b4, which is actually kind of scary. So in theory, if you, I think you might actually be able to take here. So if I do nothing, you get this, and you can't stop the. Oh wait, you can't stop the pawn. Okay, you can't actually take, but I can't take either because this is checkmate immediately, and this is also good probably for my opponent. Maybe just taking whatever, but the point is that, I mean, if I just take at some point, the pawn structure is shattered again and I'd win an endgame again. Also, I believe I win a pawn here, and my variation would have been bishop c4 here. And I'm threatening to take here. If you should, and the bishop is pinned. You can try to defend it, maybe. I did not calc that perfectly, honestly. So, oh no, this is totally fine because, like, let's say this, I'd win a pawn. Okay, and the fun variation is after they take, I take here, and this is an issue, because I also win this pawn now, and then there are some attacks. I think maybe you can play knight a6 still. That could be fine. But like, I mean, I still win a pawn. Try not to trade. I'm up a pawn here, and like, yeah, whatever, good enough. None of this happened. My opponent actually went to c7, which also makes sense, I think. But in that case, my bishop is actually... In that case, I'm pretty happy with this set of moves. My bishop was pretty terrible. Now my queen is open. My bishop can go here. Put some pressure maybe. Defend. Or just stay there for a while. And maybe use the open e-file or something. Yeah. And now I finally finish my development by moving my knight to h3. And sorry, let's promote this variation because this actually happened. And firstly, if you take queen h5, g6, and I take back like that, or I take with the pawn and just play on the open g file. I think I'd do this, but both, I would have probably taken some time to think about it. That's, and if you don't do that, I wanted to go to f4 and try to put pressure on this bishop, try to trade it off, and then this bishop would be pretty brilliant. And also I might have the option of playing bishop f4 or something, but probably knight f4. And my opponent, I assume, which is what I assumed they would do, my opponent defended against knight f4 with bishop d6. But I insisted, basically. I played queen h5, forcing g6, and f5 I just take, winning a pawn, I think. Maybe f5 is playable because of g6 afterwards. Maybe I don't just take... Oh no, wait, this would have been this, I think. Forcing h6. And then I'd play against the backward e6 pawn. I think this would be good for me. Maybe play queen g6 first or something. Now at queen f7. Yeah, I think that would have been fine. But I mean, basically the other only move is g6, which I assumed, and then I played queen h4, which tries to play knight f4 and attacks the f6 pawn. Which, I mean, you can kind of let my queen go to f6, but then you need to kick it immediately because of bishop h6 issues. So f5 is out of the question, so you really have to defend this somehow. And my opponent played knight d7, finishing development, defending, but that's allowed knight f4, which basically which I think always trades off this bishop. And I assumed, honestly, that they would just leave it, either take here, or just let me take here and fix the pawn structure. I think just if I was black in this position, I think I would play rook b8 or something, trying to prep b4. But my opponent played something interesting as well, which I did not expect. Oh, you can also play bishop a2 if you really don't want to trade, but I think after that might actually be playable. Would be funny. Yeah, I think that's safe. Bishop a2. Nice. My opponent didn't do that. My opponent played bishop c4, which trades off the bishop, but unfortunately with this bishop. So I looked at this for quite a while. There's also some threat here, by the way, but it's not that big of a deal because I can pin the pawn. I tried really hard to see if I can force my opponent to take, and I take back with the knight. That would be interesting, but that doesn't ever work. So what I did is I decided if I get checkmated, I get checkmated. Otherwise I'm winning an endgame, because I completely obliterate the pawn structure. Like, if we trade queens here, I think it's over. In which case, I think this position should be favorable for me. But I mean, there's some issues right now that I still need to defend against, and some issues not there here, and this, and queen getting in and stuff. It's I think I can probably defend this pretty easily, or I need to put some effort in, but I think it's fine. I played knight e2 because the knight would otherwise get kicked regardless. And yeah, it kind of helps defend as well. There's not really a better square for it, unfortunately. Yeah. Also note you can often take this pawn, but it's often bad because of g3. Probably always. Probably can't ever take that pawn. Even after this rook moves, I mean, of course. I assumed my opponent would play this, after which I would have a dilemma between which rook I would defend with. I don't want to play knight c3. I wanted to actually play bishop c3. That was my planned defense. And I think if there's ever a way for my opponent to play this game, it is to sack a piece somewhere here. And bishop c3 really makes it impossible for me to lose, I think. Yeah. I also want this knight here because otherwise there might be some checks here which could be annoying. Which is why after it gets attacked I just want to defend it instead of trying to run away. But first rook b8. Attacking here, maybe there's some sack issues. so I just tried to defend. It doesn't defend this pawn, but it also gives me an escape square, which I considered using like right now. So my opponent plays rook e8, rook f to e8, and I considered king d2 genuinely, but I don't think it's good. I played rook e1, and I also really took some time thinking about which rook I wanted to move, and I decided rook he1, and now this is not the thing still, but you know, you do need to know it. It might be a thing at some point. Actually, no, it won't be, because my opponent here moves the bishop, and I'm not sure why. I mean, this is not an easy position to play, but I mean, the plan is this, and like, I don't know, stuff like that, and a bunch of arrows in this general direction. So my opponent going bishop e7 baffled me. Makes no sense to me. I mean, there are some issues with f5 maybe, but I didn't buy it. It also blocks this file, so after my knight moves, my rook has free reign. But I found a different move. So I mean, I could have played knight f4, and I consider that genuinely as well. I didn't do that, unfortunately. Or maybe it's good. I do think I found a great move here. I'm pretty happy with this move. I found a move d5, which does plenty of things. It opens this bishop to attacking the f6 square, getting some mating issues as well. It attacks this pawn laterally, so to defend this pawn you basically have to take. There's also this interesting variation that I saw, f5. F5 is a bad move because of d6. Actually, sorry, f5 is a bad move because of queen takes c4. But there's also d6. d6 is also playable. Because this. And the knight is also hanging. So you can try this, but doesn't do anything. And I'm up a rook. Okay. But I think this is just the easy way. After d6 there's also the option of just taking it. Because this is actually not a mate issue because of f6 again. So I would have just, after bishop takes d6, I would have just played queen takes c4. Or actually, no, sorry, there's this maybe. And you can't go here because I win the knight and I'm threatening to win the bishop. So, okay, no, this is winning. Yeah, I did see this, I think. I'm pretty certain I saw this. Yeah, so f5 doesn't work, so you basically have to take, and my opponent played this pretty quickly, and I took back. And now, I mean, it looks like this kind of helped my opponent. They had an isolated double pawn, and now they don't. But I think this is great for me, because my rook is very active, and this pawn is still a weakness that I can attack later, and my bishop is open. Not that, not there, that one. I'm pretty happy here in this position. There also might be some issues here and like some stuff. Oh, plenty of arrows basically. And I looked at like knight d4 stuff as well. Here my opponent played a fine move, and my opponent kind of started tanking here, I believe. I mean, I had a lot less time, but my opponent actually spent a lot of time on this move as well. And I'm not sure I like what they did. So my opponent played queen c6, and I think if you want to play a move like this, so if my rook moves you take the pawn, you should maybe go here, which I'm also not sure is good, but at least it might be better. I also looked at knight b6, after which I would probably have played. I mean, I looked at plenty of things here. Like I considered like knight f4 sacking the exchange to win the f pawn as well, but I don't think that works, unfortunately. There are variations in which it does work, though. Just not all of them, which is the issue. And I think I would have, in that case, just gone back, sort of. Maybe here, maybe not, because the pawn is actually defended properly. Maybe just go back to d2, like double up something. But this is what I expected. My opponent played queen c6, and I played the move knight f4. Had to calc, of course, that g5 doesn't win a piece, which it doesn't. Yeah, this defends the rook and activates my knight, activates the other rook. My knight is good, queen is attacking, bishop is attacking. If this, I mean, this kind of looks like a house of cards, but I don't think it collapses, which is the most important part. Yeah. So I think I'm doing very well in this position. My opponent tried to win, well, something. Not sure what exactly, but enough. Bishop d6, which is, if they take, they win my rook. And also this rook is kind of hanging. But I can defend all of that, and it's, don't worry. So I played rook e to d1, which also almost wins a piece. Also note that this is kind of an issue, maybe. So my opponent was almost forced to take my knight. I recapture. Yeah, I did annotate that correctly. I did show that it's a check. Quickly had to check because I wasn't sure. Yeah, and now my opponent has a bit of an issue. The knight is hanging, and in a lot of variations, so after like rook to e to d8, I can even sack here because of some pressure here, and this. So, and after queen takes, of course, I just take, and it's even worse. So, same with that. Same with rook e7, of course. But yeah, if the knight moves to, let's say, here, I might even be able to take here, but I don't think I can. Don't think so. But I have rook d6, which is kind of a spoiler because that's a move that will happen as well. My opponent played knight e5, which is the only real way to try to defend f6, but it doesn't work because of I don't think, at least, it doesn't work because of rook d6. And now the f-pawn falls, and probably, and maybe the knight as well. I assumed this would be game over. It turns out not as clear as it might seem. But maybe now that I look at it, I think I missed something. And I mean I saw it, but no, maybe I saw it correctly and it wasn't actually over. So my opponent, instead of trying to save the pawn, tried to trade it. So they took on g2, which is probably the best move. And I had the decision to make to take on f6 with the queen or with the rook. And I mean, both look interesting. But I think if I take with the queen, that doesn't do enough. Because, I mean, you can defend the knight. I think you can defend the knight sufficiently. After which there isn't really much to do. Also, I completely forgot to mention this interesting trick. There's a blockade tactic here. And if I take, then the rook isn't defending the rook anymore. But the queen is defending the rook, so it doesn't actually work. It's... yeah, I did have to see that, though. So, I think this doesn't do enough. There might even be some queen g5 trade queen stuff. Maybe not now, but in the future. But like, I was expecting after queen f6 something like this, and the knight is defended, and maybe this is winning. Actually, let's play f4. Yeah, this looks kind of winning. Oh, there's this pinning the pawn. Oh, and no, this is still winning, because if the knight moves, then this is checkmate. Okay. Maybe I miscalculated that, but I took with the rook. Which also seems winning, because I don't lose either of my pawns, and this knight basically has to move at some point, after which I win the f-pawn, the other f-pawn, and I'm up a pawn. Also, this pawn is hanging after the knight moves, and after this I can threaten queen f7, which might be even better than rook f7. But my opponent played rook b5, which might give me some options, because both of the rooks are stuck defending this knight. The knight might be able to move, but I don't think it can. So there might be this possibility. I think this is nothing. But yeah, I didn't play a4, but it's crossed my mind. I don't think it would work. But instead I just decided take my pawn. And now I'm up a pawn. And now I need to win this. My opponent quickly played rook e1 to try to get rid of my rook on the 7th rank, which works, sort of. But I managed to win a second pawn here. Well, sort of. I don't think I can take because of perpetual issues. If I go like this, I don't think that's good either. But what I did is I played rook f8, and I think you basically have to take, because if the only other move is that, and then this is probably game over. I also had to see, of course, that I can play rook e3 here. Otherwise, it is actually fine for my opponent, because the only other move is, or f4 also works. Because the third only other option is this, and then I'd lose my rook back. And this might be... no, this is probably fine for me, but might be harder than it has to be. I think this is fine. But yeah, rook takes f8, and then I gave this check was the point. King goes to g7 and take the rook back. Right? Yeah. And there was also there was another option which I where was it? In oh, there was something funny that you could do. No, maybe it was just... oh yeah, I was looking at another move which might work. Oh yeah, I was looking at taking, and then if they take back king d2, there is this fork which does win a rook, but I can just take the other rook, and this is winning. But the issue with taking is probably something like this, and I don't see the mate. I don't think there's a mate here, because the king can run there, and I don't see it. Which is unfortunate, because there's also like counter attack stuff. Or this. I'm not sure how to play it exactly, but this pawn is really annoying. So that might be a perpetual check or something, because I can't actually run to here and here into safety. Yeah. Which is why I played it like this. And my opponent took on f2. And here, I mean, this endgame is winning, but I do need to play it accurately. And fortunately, the time situation is such that that's not a thing, because I have like less than 10 minutes here and my opponent has half an hour. I mismanaged my time quite a bit in this game. I spent a lot of time on the move b5 and on plenty of other times. I mean, I calculated all of these variations in the game, and that doesn't help in terms of time if you don't play them. But yeah. And here I played... I mean, this is still fine, and I looked at the game... I looked at, well, the next position with the engine already, and there were two options. I'll show you, actually. I'll just show you. So rook e7 check is what I played to get the rook on the 7th rank, maybe like put some pressure and maybe play queen c7 or something, or anything, it doesn't really matter. And here I need to find an only move, and it would have been my second move. And most other moves are draws, because you just... this pawn is undefendable, unfortunately. And queen c7 is a perpetual. I'm pretty certain. So the winning move, which would have been my second option, is king b1, and then the engine gave this line or something, b4, and I believe what was it? Wasn't that? It was something like this. to put pressure here. Oh wait, wasn't it a check and this, I believe, and then rook f3, and like I had to sack my rook in a weird way, or not, or fake sack my rook because it's undefended, but my opponent can't take it because that undefends their rook. Some weird stuff happened in this variation, which is the move I had to find. I had to find king b1, and I played the brilliant move queen e2, after which I'll give you 5 seconds. Queen g1, and I can't block because of rook f1, which I saw, so I play king d2 and rook f2, and I resigned in this position. Sometimes it just doesn't go your way. Sometimes chess is a shit game. Sometimes it's brilliant, but sometimes it just... Let's see how I did. I mean, this is all just opening. This is fine. Knight 6, you do have to take. E takes, yes. Bishop e3 is actually the move. Weird. Bishop d6. Queen e2 check, yes. Bishop knight f3. So I didn't play knight f3 because of bishop g4 that I wanted to prevent. But this is still fine. Castle long is bad because of b5. Yeah. Okay. Okay, let's see. What's the line? Queen f3 attempt. Okay, yeah, it is queen c7. But I did have to take some time, and queen b6 also is fine. Oh yeah, you also have this interesting in between, but you can just take here and play 2 bishops versus a rook. I think this would have been interesting, but yeah, I mean, bishop d3 is the move for it, turns out. Yeah, and here my opponent... Oh no, they did play bishop e6, which is good. a3 is the move, or just sack the pawn. I was really afraid of sacking the pawn, because you can't play b3 because of bishop here check, and I have to run, and then the bishop, I believe, just survives after bishop b2 or something, and then you'll get it out eventually. Yeah, I was really afraid of that. Oh, b4 is actually playable. Wait, okay, now it says zeros after my good move. So this should be 0 as well after a3. In which case my position is... yeah? In which case my position isn't terrible, right? Okay, no. I mean, it's never terrible, but you know what I mean. Queen d5. What would I have played? Probably... was it c4 then? No. What's the move? Just nothing. Just ignore it. And this is nothing because... oh yeah, you just run. And this is nothing. Because you... Rook a1. Would not have found Rook a1, I don't think. Oh, because the queen gets trapped. Funny. And you win the pawn, and... yeah. Fun. I would not have found this. But yeah, queen a5 is not great because, yeah, bishop d2, knight h3 as well. But yeah, and there, b5, b4, yeah. I would have probably played, I would have played that, I think, after b4. Queen a6 is better than queen a4, really? Why? d5. Oh, okay. That's also an interesting way to do that. And after bishop takes... oh, you win this bishop. That's interesting. And then this is not good enough compensation. Wait, did it say... okay, no. Rook g1 is not better. Okay. Yeah, and queen a6. I mean, this is a pin, so there's no problem. So I would play like knight h3 or h4, bishop c3. Oh no, I would have played bishop c3. I did mention that. Or bishop b4. Bishop b4 is bad, yeah. Okay. Bishop c3, yeah. Or rook e1 also is interesting, maybe. Probably would not have played that, but yeah. Bishop c3 probably. Yeah, queen c7 is apparently good, or not as good. And now I'm better. Knight a3 makes sense. Bishop d6 is apparently the only, or the best move, which makes sense. I looked at queen e4 instead of queen h5, queen h4. But I assumed that now you can play f5. And I assumed that this was better for me. Maybe not, maybe this is fine. Rook e1 of course makes sense. Yeah, quick bishop c4. Weird that it really prefers not that. No, this is bad. Oh, you just take, yeah. I would have considered both is fine. With queen e4. Weird that it really prefers this version over the g6 version for white. Fascinating. Okay, kind of makes sense. Fair enough. Okay. Yeah, bishop c4, which I assumed would be pretty terrible. G3 I did consider, but I wanted to keep my knight around. Rook, bishop, rook b5 interesting, but yeah, it makes sense that I'm worse here, but like, you gotta show it. You gotta find the good moves as black, otherwise you're positionally you just crumble. And this is not a good move, which I assumed. After the only move d5. Yeah. I did play a good game. I just blundered at the end. Knight f4, I did look at that instead of taking. I also looked at knight d4. And also want to quickly see f5, how terrible this is. Yeah, d6. And bishop takes, queen d4, yeah. And no, this is very winning. Yep. G3 and f4, and then yeah, okay, makes sense. Okay, but apparently you do actually need to find knight f4 with the idea to just take the pawn with the knight. I mean, that makes sense. But this, I thought this made sense, and I assumed that knight b6 was the best move, which it is. I looked at rook b6, but I assumed that would get trapped, so I probably would have done this, and then okay, now f5 is apparently fine. But yeah. Yeah, knight f4. Played a good move, good. Bishop d6. Oh, do need to find the only move rook d1, which is not difficult, but yeah. Take. Rook d6, yeah. Queen takes. I mean, both is winning. Take. Wait. Oh, rook. rook fd6 with the points rook d8 or something probably. Okay, makes sense. Or queen f6 and then rook d8. Yeah, I mean this is okay. Rook d7 is fine, rook takes e1 is fine. Apparently rook f8 is bad, or mediocre. Wait, what? Oh, rook f7, yeah. I mean that makes sense. Makes not, yeah, it does still make sense because now the rook is more useful and I don't own the 7th rank. That's just a strictly upgraded version of the game. Yeah, queen c3 here is also interesting. Rook e7 is fine, but now I need to find the move. The move king b1. And queen c3 is also kind of playable. My opponent assumed queen c3, but because that threatens queen g7 and defends against check. But I believe, yeah, this was the line. And now I need to find this and b4 regardless, so it doesn't really help. I just need to find the move king b1 here. And then find that this is winning. Which is not that easy. Because my opponent has 2 passed pawns and I only have 1. And my queen is in the way. Yeah, this is just losing. Yeah. Unfortunate. Better luck next time, and that will be soon actually, because I enrolled in a tournament which starts tomorrow. And I'm gonna do probably a recap of every single game there. I'm not sure I'm gonna do them after every day. I might do them off it like so. It's a weekend tournament, so Friday evening and all of Saturday and all of Sunday. And I really want to spend some time on my work and stuff. Might be next week. We'll see. Yeah, I should have time next week to work on this, to do a recap of the entire tournament on like Friday or something. We'll see. I'll see you there.